Yeah, Brian, you want to do the countdown?
Yep. 5, 4, 3.
Welcome back to another episode of the Burly Fishing Podcast. I am Jeff Burlingame, joined by my co-host Paul Glass, and we have a guest today, Mr. Brian Croom from Fisher of Men is your channel on Instagram. Say hi, Brian.
Hello.
And we're going to get talking to Brian a whole bunch today, all about what he's been up to, what he does, talking about bank fishing, talking about his channels, and the different companies that he works with on staff. So lots of cool stuff, lots of variety with this guy. It's going to be a lot of fun. As always, if you guys enjoy the podcast, be sure to subscribe, drop us a 5-star review and a comment. You can help us improve the show. We appreciate it so much. All you guys that have subscribed, all you guys that have thrown us a 5-star review, you guys are awesome. Really helped grow the channel in general, and we've been growing a lot lately, and it's been a lot of fun. So thanks for being along for the ride. But let's jump right in, Paul.
All right. So first of all, phenomenal job with the very professional introduction countdown. Well done.
Countdown was amazing. Amazing countdown. 10 out of 10 countdown.
No pictures, no autographs.
We'll try and keep it low key for you though. So the way we've been starting out, we've been doing this. I called it April Madness because we didn't get actual March Madness. I mean, if you're in North Carolina, you're probably a basketball fan. We didn't get March Madness, so we did April Madness. So what I did is I ranked some critical fishing gear, right? Put them in a bracket, and then we went head to head and we said, okay, if your pack is completely full and you can only jam one more thing in it, you got to pick one of these two things.
This or that.
Bingo. And I'm going to give you the this and then the that, and then everyone's going to get a chance to go at it, and you get to be the tiebreaker.
All right.
So number 16 seed, big triumph in round 1. We're already in the Elite 8 West Division. Number 16, Bug Spray versus number 6, Hat, which everyone's got a hat on today.
Hats are dumb. Who wears hats?
Yeah.
So it's number 16 Bug Spray versus number 6 Hat. Got to make a choice. Which one are you going with?
Well, as you can see, it's going to have to be the hat.
I love it.
Yeah. Got to cover the dome. Can't handle that sunburn on the head. So I'm going to go with that. I can always put some UV clothing on to keep the bugs off.
You always got the backup, Jeff.
Oh, man. Yeah, you're going to definitely have to SPF it up, man, if you take that hat off. That's SPF 90. That's the Paul special. Covers up before you go fishing. Man, that's a tough one because I definitely tried to push Bug Spray over the edge way back in the day when we did that matchup. So I feel like attached to Bug Spray because of what we've been through.
Trying to make the Cinderella happen.
Right. I really want to, but I am going to have to say hat. Like I'm with you, Ryan. Like I do have the hair. I do have the hair to protect, but I need that coverage, and the shade over the sunglasses really helps with the glare on the water. Like I can't go without that, man.
And that's
sleep in
it. You got to get that staff name in there too.
Oh yeah, you do.
Attaboy.
There you go.
That's critical real estate. I'm going hat. That's the first time I think everyone's been aligned. I think Bug Spray somehow had a big win. Probably shouldn't have won. I'm not gonna say it, Jeff. But and then Hat I think is underseeded. So Hat takes the win. But we got 2 matchups. So we got the next matchup, number 12, which is a buff, versus this one's easy again. Phone.
Versus what again?
Cell phone.
That's easy for me. That's the phone.
I know.
So Brian's on Instagram. He's an influencer. He's working staff with all these companies.
Gotta have it.
Gotta take the pics, man. That's your job.
Jeff, are you dripping or grinning, or are you protecting your face?
And as a bank angler, I never know when I'm gonna run into a snake. Or anything else. So need to be able to make that call.
That's what I said last time.
It's so easily overlooked, right? But yeah, the safety factor is so important. Yeah, I think after our last trip, which Paul and I get to talk about in a minute, it's always going to be phone for me.
That was a good trip, guys. I saw that.
That was a doozy and then some.
Dude, rough day, but even even with Paul there, like Paul almost got attacked by a dog, which didn't even make it into
I forgot about that.
The craziest thing ever. But even with him there, like, yeah, I need my phone. Like, we were not in potentially safe waters, and anything could happen. So I'm with you. Also working with all these other companies, like I kind of want to take my pictures, man. I live on YouTube and Instagram.
There you go.
When I get lost and die at some point on the river, the phone will probably be the only way my wife will find me. So we'll go with phone.
Luckily, they're all waterproof now. Though. Did we talk about that last time? Like,
not last. Yeah, I think we did.
For a super long time.
I dropped my phone in the river, and my wife called every single person that I've ever known. Literally.
This phone was dead. It was gone. And dead.
I'm like, how is someone in California gonna know where I am? That's not gonna work. We're in Michigan.
Yeah.
Oh,
all right, those ones are super easy, so we're gonna get straight into the weekly check-in. I'm gonna go first. I'm gonna dominate and take over only because I had a big moment that no one else cares about, but I got a turkey on Sunday.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That was freaking sweet. And we've been cooking it up. We've been eating it. We turned it into stock. We did the whole 9. It was awesome. 10 inches. 10 inch beard. Yeah.
Nice.
Pretty for a public land turkey. I'm jacked up about it.
Yeah, I hear you.
So yeah, I got my turkey. So that's a big check off my spring list. That was like on my spring to do was get a turkey. So got her done. All right.
Done.
Brian, what have you been up to? I know we got a story we got to share, but I want to know what you've been up to this week.
Wow. This week has been crazy North Carolina weather. It was 85 Sunday, then it was like 54 the next day. 20-mile-an-hour winds, pelting rain.
Oh man, rough.
And then it's dropping down. Like tonight's supposed to be I think 38 or something. High of 77 tomorrow. So it's
so how do you miss?
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
The fishing forecast is all over the place. The fishing forecast is, and the fish can't decide, do I come up, do I go back? You're seeing beds, you're seeing males there, but I don't think they're guarding eggs. I think they're just staging, getting them ready. I haven't seen any red tails yet, so I don't think they've really hunkered down yet. It's supposed to warm up a lot next week, and so my fishing trips this week have been few and far between, just an hour or so here and there, just to see what's going on and kind of survey things and check out the banks.
I like that. We've been seeing a lot of like really hit and miss days because like it almost seems like the high temp is what's gonna like get you where you need to be. And the other thing, I mean, like that largemouth I caught on the weekend, it was like it must have been either staged up or close to where its bedding area was going to be because it barely hit this thing and it was like and I barely hooked it. And then I thought it was a stick because I'm just like reeling it in.
You said it on video.
Yeah, like
was this a stick?
I can't confirm. But yeah,
I'm seeing a lot of that.
I'm
seeing a lot of the nibbles. The frogs just getting the legs, the tassels just barely pulled under. They're not really attacking it. So I don't think they're. I guess they're at that. I'm gonna call it a comatose stage, where they're not really aggressively after anything. They're just kind of hanging back and checking things out. If something comes right in front of their face, they're hitting it, but otherwise they're not gonna go after everything. So it's a lot of experimentation, with different things, and I keep a plethora of rods, of combos set up with different things that I can just, grab and throw something else.
Nice. For sure. All right,
awesome,
Jeff,
man.
Do you want to hit us with a recap?
Yeah, I can recap because I haven't been out this week at all. Weather has been, definitely warmer. We've definitely had like some good temperature fluctuations, kind of similar to what you're doing with there, Brian. And like, the fish are just finicky. Even on the river they were, which normally, this time we should have smallmouth heaven, but it's been hit and miss. And I mean, there's been some big ones out there for sure. I've had some good trips and some not so good trips, like we'll talk about. But like Paul, you remember on the trip, this wasn't in the video. I was throwing like a white tube, and this fish like nibbled on it. I reeled him up a little bit. He wasn't even hooked. He was just still chewing on it. He didn't commit at all. And I got him like almost to the boat with no hook in his mouth, and then he just swam away. So yeah, it's finicky, man. It's tough right now. So hopefully that clears up soon. Yeah. So the Croc venture, as we're calling it, because we definitely highlighted Crocs like inadvertently in that video. We wear Crocs all the time, and people definitely just poop on us all day about it. Because, come on, they're so comfortable, man.
They're my outside sandals, man. Don't know what
man sandals all day.
You know what they say they're good for, right?
Everything.
You can take your fishing line, put your pencil through the center of the hole, put the pencil in the holes in the Crocs, and hold it between your feet. That's what they say it's used for.
I'm fine with that.
Genius.
Hey,
it does. So we had our off-road man sandals on, and we went on a trip down a river that I'm apparently not supposed to say the name of, because I'm a big spot burner. So I'm gonna stop doing that. Working on my habits. Paul, help me out.
I yell at him every time.
He doesn't do a good job though. He needs to like hit me.
I'm gonna literally hit you
over the head.
He takes a breath to say a place, and I'm like,
Yep. Shut me down, man. Anyway, so we hit said river at undisclosed location, and it started out pretty good. You know, definitely smaller fish. We had one largie, I don't know, probably a dozen smallmouth by the time we hit the dam. All decent sizes, and we were hitting on square bill, Ned rig, right? Ned rigs all day, and just having a decent time. The wind was pretty rough. Temperature was great though, and we got to the dam. I caught a couple there. That was exciting and fun because the current was insane. And if you've watched the video on YouTube, if you haven't, just pause this and go do that. Do yourself a favor and watch somebody suffer really bad. So basically, things I learned. You never win against water, which is something I thought I knew, but apparently I didn't listen to my own advice at that point in time. 2, Hobie Pro Angler, most stable boat on the planet. Just come at me. Like I got
Shameless
hit.
Plug.
What was that?
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. I don't even work with these guys yet, Hobie, if you're listening. But I got hit like by this crazy sideways current coming around an island, like an eddy. And
there were two swirling eddies.
Yeah, I made it through one.
They were rolling.
Made it through one. Paul goes, "Oh wow, he got real lucky there." And then I just get spun around, and then I backpedaled, and then I got side swept, and like the boat went almost perpendicular to the water. It was absurd. But I didn't feel like I was going to fall out at any point. I just sat right back up, slammed into the trees, and then Paul had to save my life. Needless to say, the rest of the trip did not go well for me at all. And if you guys catch Paul, prior to that, Paul did have some heartbreaks. So Paul broke his rod. And him just like slap shotting it was like I watched it 15 times and just cracked up every time because the angle of the camera was so good. You just wrecked your rod, and the way you made it sound like it happened is not what happened. You were like, "Oh, I bumped my crankbait into it, blew up." Freaking knuckle pucked it, like slap shotted this thing into the goal.
Yeah.
It was so bad.
It became a 2-piece real quick.
It did.
It actually became a 3-piece. Yeah,
it
was brutal.
It was bad. But my reel plate, somebody commented on the video too. So my reel plate, the side plate on my Revo SX popped off. And somebody commented on the video and they're like, "I just went to the river and lost my SX side plate. This reel is cursed." So it could be a problem with the Revo SX. But like the open close switch for the magnetic side of it, it's been popping off on me, but this time it finally just came off and it missed the boat, fell into the water, gone.
Were they both at said river at undisclosed location?
No, this other person, I don't know where they were fishing at, but it was the river. Man. The river's definitely cursed.
Gotta hold it in. I can't smack him here, but the second I see his actual face, just
undisclosed. And then, my trip started really unwinding. We got below the dam. That situation occurred. I bent my Hobie pedals because they have like this basically semi-invincible drive, which is amazing. But the little $20 rods that come down, they bend. It happens. So that bent. That made pedaling really hard the rest of the trip. And then probably the saddest thing for me was when my brand new Dobbins rod just went. I watched it go up in a tree. And then it just dropped down and it tumbled through the current like 3 times, and I just watched it butt up and tip up and then gone. And I cried a little bit. I had some man tears. Paul saw me. Paul paddled by And he
I was
he just kept going. And I was just like, I buried myself in a bush, and I was just like face in hands, done
And you
for
got a
the
mud
day.
bath too, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, so when we crashed I crashed my boat into the side of the dam to get out of the crazy current. He dragged me out, and then we had to walk my 487-pound boat through just mud everywhere, just sinking in, and that's where the croc venture started. We didn't lose a croc on that trip, though. I will say we found some
got
crocs
them
at the
both. We did. That's right.
We found some crocs. Somebody else wasn't using the crocs right, but our crocs survived. They did great. And then Paul caught a bunch of fish right there too, which was pretty awesome.
I found the spot, started reeling them in. It was, I mean, it's one of those days where like when you're in the day, it was miserable, but then like afterwards, you're gonna be like laughing about it, which we're doing right now.
We'll laugh about this trip forever.
Oh, yeah. It was good stuff. It was good video. I watched most of it. I ain't gonna say I watched all of it.
27 minutes. I'm glad you made it through some of it. I appreciate that.
Just skip to the painful parts. I'll just
That's what I was looking for.
That's what's up. All right, man. That was the week in review. Next we hit the best part, the show meat. So we're gonna take advantage of the knowledge of our guests here today, and then we're gonna kind of hit you with some questions on bank fishing. So I think, like, depending on where you live and what you do, bank fishing can either be like the only thing that people do, or it's like something that like people do when they start and then they change to something else. And I'll be honest, I started bank fishing and then went into river and then kind of evolved from there. And Jeff and I had a time when we were like, we need to go back and just hit the bank because it's got its own flavor and it's got its own challenges. And I think a lot of people kind of like after they move on to it never get back to it, which is kind of silly, really, because one, it's got like the adventures like built into it, right? Like, so getting to your spot, finding your spot, and then learning the river from the bank is like its own set of challenges. I think it's a ton of fun. So first of all, tell us, you talked about being from North Carolina. That's your fishing spot. Tell us a little bit about the places that you fish, and then like kind of how you find like your spots. Like, how do you find your hunting holes?
Yeah. So North Carolina, born and raised, and you skipped a part, and I was thinking I was going to save it until you got to me, and that was as a bank angler, yes, you have your public places to go, your city ponds and stuff, but the getting permission, and I'm only saying that because I am one that does, and I use the GIS tax map, so I know who owns the land, I know who to go to ask permission, and I ask permission or get permission before I go to any body of water on that, on that land, and that's really big with me, especially here. I worked with John Deere for 8 years. I know a lot of farmers. They all have ponds, and I made, good relations with them, had a good customer base. And so doing that was easy for me. And most of them just said, I don't even know why you came and asked. And I said, it's just because that's who I am. I'm going to come and ask. I'm going to get, your blessing, your permission to go. I'm not just going to show up. I don't carry anybody with me. I pick up, trash or whatever, how that goes. I'll do whatever you need if you'll let me fish here.
I was going to ask that, actually. I don't mean to interrupt, but like, how do you, because like sometimes you'll find a spot where you're like, dude, there's a ton of fish here. Or like, this is a sweet spot where it's got an open bank, but there is some shade and you can get the fit. Like, you get that spot that's like perfect. How do you maintain permissions? Because like, I know I'm a big hunter. And so for me, I drive, like, every time I drive by a field and I see like 30 deer feeding in the back, I'm like, coming back here, right? But like, how do you approach somebody, like kind of do you have like a canned approach for how you like walk up to a door and, kind of cold calling on somebody if you maybe drove by and saw a retention pond or whatever, and you're like, I want to go fish there. How do you, like, what's your approach? And then once you get it, kind of how do you keep them? Because that's hard too.
Yeah, it is. It's a small town. I don't really fish outside of my county, which is about 60,000 people. The city is only about 26,000. So most of the anglers around here that are bank fishermen, bass fishermen, we're in similar groups, or we know each other. they put a word out, or or say, well, I got permission, you can come, and then it kind of leads, it snowballs, where they've now seen me up there a lot, and it makes it easy to just go one day and say, hey, do you mind if I keep coming? I don't really cold call anybody. It's mostly because of people I know. I know a lot of people here. One private subdivision has a small lake, and you have to have written permission. You know how that goes. Written permission, no boats, no nothing. So that's nice. And then the local golf courses, they always hold the big babies, and just as long as you don't go up there with a cooler, like
exactly.
You're going, oh, I'm just using it to sit on. As long as you don't do that, then your chances are pretty good of coming back. And they know you respect the fish. I'm catch and release only.
Yep.
Even my PB, I caught it January 24th, 11 pounds, 8 ounces.
Wow. All right. No big deal.
Congrats, man.
That's awesome.
Possible catch of a lifetime. Definitely a trophy fish. It was a state record in 20 other states.
Wow. That's sick.
But not here, not in North Carolina. 15-14 is the record here.
Jeez.
And, so even then, I got asked a lot, and even by one of the homeowners, about it. And I said, no, I put it back. I mean, I don't need it. I've got pictures. I can have somebody take a form and spray paint me, one just like it. There's no point in it. And, that was January 24th. You think what time of year that was? We weren't even close to pre-spawn.
Oh, yeah,
and
man.
I said, if she's that big now, think what she'd be like with a belly full of eggs.
Yeah.
I may have a state record at that point. And a friend of mine runs the local nature center, and he said, did you call the game warden? And I was like, why, am I in trouble? He said, no, you should have gotten a citation.
Oh.
Yeah, citation, for a trophy. It's a trophy bass. Anything over 10 pounds is a trophy bass, trophy fish. And I said, no, I didn't. I wish I had, though, because that would have been something else on the record.
Yeah.
Yes, Michigan. And you know what? I feel like it's other states too. But I know Michigan, if you call, we get the DNR, if you call them, right, they'll come out, they'll measure it, they'll, take photographs, they'll, weigh it, et cetera, et cetera. And then they keep a logbook of all catches. And then, they'll have patches for different things that you can, different categories. Yeah. But then they'll maintain the records too, and they'll acknowledge your record in the state logbook and everything, which is sweet. And then they'll let you know where your fish would have, if it was the last record was 1950, if you broke that one, they'll let you know all that kind of stuff too, which I think is really cool.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that's awesome, man.
I would have liked to have had them there for one reason I can think of is that obviously to use the tape and their scales and everything. Get the certificate or whatever you get. But to maybe have them shed a little more light on maybe the age of the fish.
Yeah.
If it's that big, how long did it take? Now, this particular place is known for monsters. A guy caught a 10-pounder end of last year that I saw. And it's been known for that for years, many years. So.
Sure. We did a podcast on bass facts, and they had talked about how long it takes, how old bass get, and how they, how they be how their forage has to grow as they grow and that sort of thing. And then as I was doing the research, I was like, dude, how do you age a fish? Right. I had no idea. And bass specifically, they have a couple of bones that only grow as they grow, so the size of that size of that bone is analogous to their age. And then the other thing is the quality of their scales. So they don't get more scales, but they grow as the fish grows, and so they can tell by the scales first, and then if they can't tell by the scales, then they can use certain bones in the fish, which I had no idea.
Yeah, I guess that's why you may see. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. I didn't know that. But it may
Bass
be
facts.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe why you sometimes see a 9-pound head and mouth on a 4-pound body.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. It is and there actually that's worth going to listen to because there's a lot of really weird stuff. Like their eyes continue to grow through like they're out their entire life, which I had no idea. Yeah, Bass Facts. That was a good episode.
That was a fun episode. What was like the world record? Was some guy had multiple world records for like a 23 pound?
Oh yeah.
We're not talking about the guy that was snagging bass, are we?
No, we're talking about the guy that actually caught it in 1950 something.
Was he out of Japan?
Yeah.
Now so that was another guy in Japan actually tied that record more recently, like 2009 or something like that. I had to go back and look. I actually have it here in the show notes. I can pull it up.
That's right.
But yeah. All right. So I got another question. How did bank fishing become like your thing? And like why did it become bank fishing and then like not something else?
Yeah, and why not move to a boat potentially at some point? No, I mean, to each their own, right? So yeah, what drives you to that?
Yeah, that's actually possibly a whole nother show and story in itself.
I like it.
All right, I'm listening.
But I'll kind of give you, the Cliff Note version of it real quick, and that is, I was a completely different person 5 years ago, and I had a life change, and so I was running the roads and I was doing a lot of other things, and so we had rented a house, and this is definitely not fishing related, but I share my testimony a lot. I get asked to go and share my testimony places and churches and men's groups and so on, but my wife and I had split up and we got back together and we were renting this house and it had a storage building in the back. Well, the owners are the type of men who, if it's not mine, I'm not going to touch it, and you're not going to touch it. So I said, well, look, the building's back there and I noticed some stuff in it, but I was wondering if I could use it. And they said, well, let us check with the guy and see, if he wants anything that's in there. They come back, they say, no, go ahead and do whatever you want, throw it away, you can use it. And I'm in there and I'm cleaning it up, and I had never been fishing in my life ever. Now I was 40, I was 41 then, I think, 41, and I had never been fishing in my life. But I looked up in the rafters of this storage building, and there was 6 fishing poles with reels. They're 6 combos, 5 spinners, zip code 33. Some old stuff.
The golden oldie.
Yeah. I didn't know what it was at the time, but I found out later. And shad fishing is really big here. So, I found somebody to take that off my hands.
Nice. I saw some pictures of some monster shad on your page too. Holy crap.
Yeah, they're big down here.
But yeah, anyways.
And so, there was one Bass Pro Shop rod and reel baitcaster combo, and I had a guy at church who fished, and I said, well, look, man, I found all these rods and reels. I don't know what to do with them. I don't know, what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, you need to figure out, are you going pan fish? Are you fishing for bass? What are you going to do?
Good advice.
And then he said, I'll line them up for you. So he put fresh line on them, and the baitcaster he set up for me for bass fishing. He hooked me up with some plastics, just some worms, your standard starter kit, and here you go. And so I was on my own, and I started going to the city ponds, got my license, and started going there and just slowly learning. I mean, I literally taught myself. Most everything I know today, I've picked up a lot as I watch, YouTube and Instagram and people, but I knew when I saw those poles, I said, well, this is, first of all, you're looking up, this is a sign. And I said, well, maybe this is what I'm supposed to start doing now. I thought it was fishing. I thought it was a waste of time before, I didn't have time for it. I only knew about the cork, or the bobber and the worm, put on the hook. And that's all I knew. And I was like, this is boring. Who wants to go sit and watch this thing in the water, waiting to see if it moves, and it may never move. And, so I was small-minded about it at the time. And I remember one of the first lessons I learned about bass was, they were the predator. They're the predator in the pond. And I thought to myself, well, they're going to eat anything I throw. And I started seeing, crazy videos like hooks on a Coke can.
Yeah.
Collar bass. And I'm like, there you go. Proves my point.
We're good.
Yeah. And well, my wife loved it. She's like, you picked up this new thing and it's good for you and so on. And I said, okay, thank you. And I'm glad you like it. Hopefully now I can also take my girls, things like that. And I said, but I promise you, I'm not going to spend a lot of money because, and I explained it to her. I said, bass are the predators. They'll eat anything. I got these plastics, City's plastics he gave me, and, I'm going to be good. And hopefully she can't hear, but, like $4,000 later.
Oh, yeah, for sure, man.
You got off easy.
I'm racked up with 18 rods I keep in my car all the time, and just everything you name it, I've got it. And I still don't know that my opinion has changed much. I just think you find more of what they want, and particularly when you're going, and so
found a better steak.
Yeah, that's right. And I guess that's really how it came to be. And it was a new addiction for me. I'm a recovered addict, and it was a new addiction for me.
Quality one, man, like getting out of doors.
And when I'm not home, by dark or whatever, or if I'm gone all day, she knows where I am.
Yeah.
And and if I tell her I'm going fishing, she knows I'm going fishing.
That's an unbelievable story, awesome, man. And I mean, it's an easy thing to get hooked on. No pun intended. It's just like one of those things where if you like being out of doors, it's like you can. How many times are you like Jeff and I have this thing we call it one for the road, where it's like we will stay on water until it's way late if we don't call one for the road, where it's like, all right, we're gonna get one more and then that's it, and then we're out of here. Period.
It's a very important rule. It saves us our marriages. Yeah. You have to have something like that. But I feel like you're bringing up so many good points, and I know Paul has questions. We'll hit all these things too later, but definitely appreciate your story. Thank you for sharing that. And I love your point on bass will eat anything, but we still buy all the things. And I think it's a good point. I mean, to say to somebody new to fishing that you can do bank fishing, because it's the easiest thing to do, just go on a walk with a pole and one plastic worm, right? Kind of how you started, which is plastic worms and hooks, and get after them and they'll eat that. So if anybody's listening, thinking about getting started with this, you don't need the boat right now. You can get it later if you want to, and you can just go hit the bank, and you don't need all of the fancy tackle just yet. I'm going to call out one of the companies that you're on staff with, because they've helped us as well with giveaways and things in the past, and I am also on staff with them. But just go hook up with a company like Monster Bass, and you can get your first box for $10 if you use Save 15 as a code, and then you can go throw a whole bunch of those lures, because I guarantee if you get one of those boxes, if you have a rod and reel, sometimes they'll just send you a line too. But if you got the rod and reel, you get the stuff you need to catch fish in there. So, I mean, it's just an easy, cheap way to get after it.
That's right. That's exactly right. And that's kind of how my tackle started to grow. I was on Facebook Marketplace, and I might buy a rod from this guy, and he's like, hey, if I'll throw these in. And so then all of a sudden I've got stuff I never had, and I'm like, well, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. And then, really funny was my oldest daughter, she's 22, was working for the local sports shop at the time my addiction began. And then she moved and went to college, and she was working at Gander for 2 years,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so birthday and Christmas, she's giving me a tackle bag and boxes and
hooking it up,
baits and hooks, and and she gets them half off. And so
that's so good.
Yeah, that was really where it just kind of blew up, I guess. And I spent, you mentioned staff, I spent year before last, I spent all winter applying to be on staff with people. Mm-hmm. Anybody you can think of, I was applying to be on staff with them. And so, just drive, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Back to what Jeff was saying, is that I'm starting a new video series. It's going to be called Tailgate Talk.
Yep.
And it's going to be mostly geared towards beginners, novices. About, my very first video I had, just telling beginners, this is really your basics, what I feel like are the basics you need. And like Jeff said, dovetailing on that, you don't have to have a $80,000 boat. You don't have to have an $80,000 truck. You can be as big as you want to be from the bank.
$0 feet, man. Absolutely.
Yep. 100%. And I feel like they hit that bank. If they can luck out and go to some, I'm sure the awesome ponds that you fish, or like some of the areas like Paul and I are so lucky to be able to fish, and you just start hammering some bass, like the addiction just grows, right? It's like you said, who wants to watch that bobber move up and down? I mean, to be honest, I still kind of get excited when that happens. It's a little more fun with the other gear for sure, or like think of fly fishing a popper for some bluegill, as I know Paul is super addicted to. It's just that little strike, man, that really grows that addiction. And then when you're addicted and you love the thing, then invest into that, right? And really just grow from there. So I think that's a great point, man.
Yeah.
So I guess this, when you're bank fishing, do you look like, have you ever been on like the river or like on a spot where you can't get to the other side of a piece of property and been like, man, if only I could get like over there.
Rod in mouth.
We're going. Yeah, I mean, I don't know anybody that could say no. And being yakkers, I know you guys probably get a lot of those places that no one else can get to by no means. And so yes, to answer your question, yes, I have.
Yeah.
And I've looked into kayak. My wife has kind of taught me out of it. I mean, and it's not because of the money. I'm 6'5", and she's like, I know you're gonna have to possibly stand up. You're a big guy. She just doesn't think a yak will hold me. Which I know there's a guy, and I can't think of his name. He's like 6'8". He's all over.
Holy crap.
Yeah,
it'll hold you.
He's all over Instagram. I think he's out in California, and he seems to do just fine. And I'm sure they're out there, but I'm looking at a lot of different options to get off of the bank occasionally. Maybe a small one-person pontoon. You've seen those, I'm sure.
There you go.
That'd be very stable.
Oh yeah.
There's no standing up on that either, and so just looking around at other things, but. I do occasionally just think, man, I bet they're over there. That looks like a sweet, sweet spot, and that's all you can do is just look at it. But I flip that around because then I feel like it challenges me to become better at what I can.
There
do.
It is. Yeah.
I know I can't get over there, so I'm going to focus on the here and now, what I can do.
The best part about that, man, that I think of that comes to mind is those days when you scour the lake, even in a kayak, right? I'm sure Paul has had a dozen of these days like me, but you scour the lake, you catch nothing, you come back, last cast at the launch, you catch a fish. And you're like, was it worth this entire trip? I've done literally like 4 hours with no fish, and then I catch one at the boat launch, and I'm like, all right, cool. Could have walked down here and fished from the bank.
That's where they're released at tournaments. I hear that a lot. That's where you can always get one.
Oh, for sure, man.
Yep.
Oh, well, it's really funny. Like it happens so often, and it almost always happens, at least a lot of times where I see it, because you get those enter and exit points where all those boats are coming through, and they wash out that section, and so you got this like nice, like it's like only a foot or two deeper usually than like the surrounding area where the launch is. But a lot of times, like that's all you need. You get weed along the edges of those in like a 2-foot depression, and like when the water's hot, like when they're doing those tournaments in like the heat of summer, when top water's hot, because that's what they want to see. Dude, that 1 or 2 feet is like all you need to draw, especially a bass in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so I have to like, you're obviously a big bass guy. Are you like, do you only target bass?
I do. That's it. Occasionally catch things, but that is all I'm after.
Love that. So let me ask you this. if all the bass in the world were gone, what would you be going after?
Extinction,
man.
dude. Perhaps by a virus.
Yeah, you're killing me, Smalls.
I know, man. I knew it was gonna be bad, so I had to.
Why would you take that away from him? You're a monster. You're a straight monster.
We're just suspending reality for a very short period of time.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about it, and I'm close. I told you I'm an hour from the coast. I have a friend. We grew up together, who lives down on the coast, and he runs a charter business, Intercoastal Waterway, for stripers, red, drum, rock. So that's probably what I would do. It wouldn't be the end of the world. It's not that far. I've got a charter buddy who can take me anytime, and that would become my new thing. So it wouldn't be the end of the world, but it would sure hurt.
It's pretty cool to see somebody who is that coast to the coast and has like what you think of as like a premier fishery, right? Like type of fishing where it's like other people are like, that's all I want to do, and I'm gonna pay a bunch of money to fish that fish, and you're like, dude, I like being really good at this.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really sweet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I get asked all the time, because people that find out I fish, and they're like, well, what are you fishing for? Do you keep them? All those questions, and I'm just like, bass. That's it.
But big ones.
Yeah.
But just the big ones.
And my PB before that, before the one I told you about this year, was 9.4.
Dude.
So that was awesome. Big. That was a big jump. And
dude, that's a lot of bass for what, like a handful of years. Holy crap.
Yeah, that's huge, man.
That's
and I didn't know what to do. I can play that story back. That's something else we were talking about. What I have now is, and I have the memory.
Yeah.
And I can play it back. I can see it. And I never got to see this fish until it was at me. I was at a retaining wall, and until she surfaced, I had no idea. And they've got huge koi, carp out there.
Yep.
And it wasn't really fighting. It was just dragging. It was pulling, and I let it peel it off, and then slowly reel back. I didn't want to push my luck. I didn't know, and I didn't see her until she was at me, and I see this big mouth come up, and I just, because then she just stopped. She stopped.
Yeah.
She laid out sideways like she was tanning.
Yeah.
and showing me like, here I am.
No way.
And I just looked at her for like 30 seconds. I swear, just for like 30 seconds, I was just looking at her. I didn't move. She didn't move. And
sea monster.
That's the other thing. I hadn't thought about this till I was telling a friend about it, and they said, "Man, do you know how hard it is to land a fish over a retaining wall that size by yourself with no net?"
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I had no net.
Dang.
So I had to lean over the retaining wall, almost in the water, and get a hold of her to pull her up. And
oh man.
Yeah.
I caught
That's awesome.
I caught a 28-inch steelhead standing on a sandy bank at least 15 feet above the water.
Uh-huh.
And I had no business hooking that fish from the bank at all. And I remember I thought I caught a log, and I was like, oh crap, I'm gonna have to get this meps out of this log.
Yeah.
And I'm looking like way down at this bank, and then all of a sudden the log takes off and starts peeling off my drag. And I'm like, oh, what? And then I finally reel it in, and I realize like I'm not down there yet, so I like slide all the way down the sandbank, and I had a buddy who's like maybe 30 feet from me, and I'm screaming like trying to climb back up the sandbank with a freaking huge steelhead in my hand and a rod in my other hand, and he can't even hear me, dude. That's the other thing about bank fishing. Like people, it's hard to cast. If you got trees like right on you and you're in that thick spot, you're not just like winding up and like shooting them out. And retrieving fish, to your point, especially if you're on like a retaining wall or anything like that, even if it's like you get those long stretches of like shallow water that just drop off sometimes, or you're at a straight drop off, you got things that you got to deal with that normally you're not dealing with at all if you're on a boat. The boat's the same retrieve every single time for the most part.
Yeah.
So I got to ask you this. I did watch that video that you posted, and I thought it was really cool. I saw you got your backpack, but like walk us through like what's your setup?
Oh yeah.
You mean as far as what I have with me anytime I get out of the vehicle?
Absolutely.
Well,
What are you bringing with you? Like what is your rod and reel setup? Like what's always in the pack?
all 18 of them, because you already said you have 18 rods. Every rod, every reel, walk it through.
No, don't do that. He's got a wife.
I'm kidding.
He's got kids. You can't do that to him.
Yeah.
Undisclosed number of rods.
And what's the story, about it? As long as she doesn't sell them for what I told her I paid for them.
I was gonna bring that up. It's like the one thing I worry about is that my wife will sell my gear for what I told her I paid for it.
That old thing, $20 garage sale.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And no, I keep all of those. I told you I pretty much have setups for everything, and so all I have to do is grab something and go, or situation changes, get back to it and just grab the next one. If I don't want to go through the time of, let's say they're schooling bait fish, they're busting shad, and I don't have we'll just say a lipless crank with me. I want to be able to grab something with one ready, versus spending the time to tie it on and know I can throw it in the middle of that school and I'm almost surely going to catch something. But so it's usually anywhere from 3 to maybe 7 combos that I carry, when I get out and go, depending on where I'm going. I know most of these places well enough by now to know mostly what works. And,
so you're talking everything from like a broomstick down to like a finesse rod, a couple casters, a couple spinners, like that type of thing.
We're back to the cork and bobber thing again, because I'm not a very patient man. So bottom fishing, finesse fishing is not my specialty or my strong point, I guess I should say. I'm not a specialist at anything, but my strong point is not that. I'm more of a cast and reel type guy.
Yep.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So, a lot of cast king combos, some Paragees, Speed Demon Pros and things like that with Mega Jaws reels. Anywhere, I try to stay above 6'9" in all of my rods, no matter what they are.
Gotta be able to cast, got that distance.
Yeah. Try to stay above that. And I have the P1 Red Gills P1 backpack. It holds I've got 5 tackle trays in there right now. My pliers, my braid snippers, my scales, neck gaiters, lotion, lotion for keeping the sun off. If I don't have everything, I don't carry a closet with me of shirts and everything, and all of that. And then, the tackle boxes usually have most all of my, say, terminal tackle, peg stops, things like that in one box. And because you can't carry everything, you're not on a boat. And so I try to keep that box set up. Then maybe a box of soft plastics all the way from, worms and crawls down to paddle tails, flukes, whatever it is in that box. I try to keep all that together.
And you're not drop shotting any of those?
No, I do no drop shot, and I know that's big up your way.
Don't tell JC.
Yeah, and Jeff mentioned something that I use a lot. I know it's big up in your area, and I think it's growing down here because I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. But the tube is phenomenal.
Don't tell anybody that then. For sure.
Bait burning.
Can I give you?
Welcome to my world. Let's burn everything.
You probably know this, but one thing that I feel like people always want to, well, I guess not always. A lot of people I know they think of tubes as like a drifting or like a really slow retrieve, like to get that undulation. The way I use a tube, especially if I'm on the bank, I cast that sucker super, super high, like as high as I can cast it, and you get this big smack on the water, and you do that on on a weed edge or where there's one fish, pocket water, and you just let it scissor down as slowly. I put the minimal weight on that I know that I can get get it to a spot.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just let that sucker scissor down as slowly as possible, and you don't touch. I don't even close the bail, and you let it fall. That is a murder technique, because when it plops, it's hollow, right? The tube is hollow.
Yeah.
And that thing, big old plop, big old sound. It works so good in pocket water. I don't see people using them like that almost ever.
I use I carry that to a couple of different levels with the tube. Is the year, the conditions, the place I'm fishing. I may use just a straight tube weight inside of it, to get it down there, because I know that's where it needs to be. And then, I do rig it up, kind of Texas rig.
Absolutely.
With just a wide gap hook, no weight, no nothing, to give it that slow descent.
Oh, dude, that is awesome.
So it goes through the water column. And a lot of times, it never makes it past 2, 3, 4, 5 feet before it's hit. And
That's
so,
what's up.
yeah, I think that about covers, what I carry with me. The phone, of course.
Very important.
Got to have those pictures, and some good. I like to use bass attractant, bass scent.
I was gonna ask you about that.
Yeah, I use the Bass Dynasty bass attractant, and I find that it helps me a lot. Not so much now, I'm gonna say, as much as it does when the bite's hard.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm bed fishing, everybody knows that you can sit there and you can bounce your stick while the worm's sitting in the bed, and it's got to be in a particular place in the bed. You've got to agitate somebody bad enough they want it. I haven't found that it really scores more brownie points in those situations, but when the bite's tough, it definitely helps. And trying to think if there's anything else I keep with me or I take with me. And that's funny, Paul, that you said you watched the video I did.
Yeah.
Because that was a one take spur of the moment video.
Crushed it.
And, yeah.
It's Jeff's specialty.
Yeah.
we only do one take on Burly fishing.
Yeah.
That's all I could appreciate, man. That's awesome.
So I appreciate the feedback and support on that. It was a one take spur of the moment thing. I said, I just bought a truck this week, and that's why I said, well, hey, this is it.
Talk.
This is going to be my thing. It's going to be called Tailgate Talk, and I'm going to start, doing those videos.
That's sweet, man. Got to do them up. I liked it because I think you have a unique perspective, because I think a lot of people, being in Michigan, we have a lot of people who pier fish, which I'm considering like just a different version of bank fishing. We have a lot of bank fishermen because we have a ton of rivers. We have tons of them. A lot of people look at it though, and they're like, dude's looking for bluegills, right? And they do they don't,
because they got a bucket, but it's full of their tackle. It's okay.
Yeah. But I don't think a lot of people realize it's just another way to get around, right? And it's just another way to do the same thing that everyone else is doing. I mean, it's the same thing when you see dudes who are on like paddle boards and are getting after it, right? In the same way that like a kayak would. And I think it's really cool that you're like, it is a unique thing. And I think it is something where it's like, it's just like anything else. Like there's a lot of bass fishermen. There's not a lot of guys who get into it the way that you're into it and are like, no. I'm not just out here to get a fish on the land. Yeah. I'm looking for that freaking PB every time I go out, right? There's a huge difference. There's a huge difference between like, putting a middle schooler on a fish and being like, okay, that was my win for the day, and then getting it 10 feet deep into it. So yeah, I think that's really cool.
Dude, there was, there's places I told you just bought a truck. I was driving a Mazda Tribute, an SUV. You imagine 18 rods in this SUV.
I can't.
And, not even possible. They're on top.
Yeah, and
duct tape.
And could have put more. Folks were like, "There's no way you can put more in
That's
there."
Crazy.
Like, try them. Buy them. I'll put them in here.
Give me one.
But with that, there's not a lot of off-road access that way. So I have some places I can pull up. I can open up the hatch. When I had this SUV, some places I pulled up, open up the hatch, and I'm like literally casting right straight from the back of the hatch. But then I have places I go and I have to walk and may put in 5,000, 6,000 steps by the time I leave and then get back. They're that far away. They're not really accessible. So I'm having to walk through woods, and so on. And then, of course, now you definitely don't want to be driving around the bank, and you see all the swirls and things going away.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Drive the entire lake.
Yeah, well, there's some stealth, to that also. So
I was gonna bring that up. So that was one of my next questions. Are like, what are some of the things that like if someone, because I think people have a conception of what like bank fishing is, right? It's a lawn chair, a couple beers, a rod, and some worms. Like when you're like for like one thing I think you brought up, which is like a perfect example. Like when I'm fishing the river, and I was just telling Jeff that it's like one of my biggest pet peeves is when like you go to read water, and you're like, this spot's not that big of a deal. You throw one cast into it, and then you start walking through it, and then you realize it's like 6 feet deeper than you thought it was, or like you can see there's a shelf right there, and you just watch like a freaking like monster trout like blast through it or whatever, and you just see the fish of a lifetime skating out, and it's because you didn't read the water and you walked through what you wanted to fish. Like you talked about avoiding that type of thing where if you see like a shallow spot, you're not going to be standing with the sun behind you putting a shadow right over it, right? So like what are some of those things that you do to kind of put yourself in a good position that people probably aren't thinking about if they're really serious about bank fishing?
Wow, that's deep, and I like that.
Well, that's only the hard questions.
Yeah, while you sit back and you drink.
Yes, sir.
Sipping on the beverage, but I love that term, read the water. That's good stuff there. You need to patent that.
Paul's a big nerd. He loves nerd terms. We love him for it.
He's gonna hold up a book now.
I got him.
Paul's go-to is Paul is like at heart 97 years old, and we love it.
That's cool. You're asking me to kind of help a beginner, and so I don't think it needs to be something complicated. I mean, just find somewhere that you're comfortable, that you're not going to get caught up, that doesn't have a lot of coverage. There's not a lot of possibly down trees, limbs, anything. Just wide open bank, and just go have fun. It'll happen. I mean, it'll catch you. You won't catch it. If you want to put that on your podcast line there.
Oh, that's the one for sure.
I think that's the title for this episode. Write it down, Paul. Show notes. I won't read it.
But at least in my case, that's what happened to me. It caught me, and it just became a rush and a thrill. It's about peace and quiet and time, where you get to do your thing, and there's nobody telling you how to do your thing. And you got really deep with the sun behind you. So obviously, somebody could pick up on that. You're not wanting to cast the shadow that's picked up. They can see very well in still water. They can see you coming a long ways away. So make your cast a long ways away. If you're going to be focusing on the bank, the first 10 feet off of the bank, you want to be casting way down there. This time of year, I kind of spray my patterns with my different baits. I start straight down the bank, with something top water, mostly a frog, because it's not going to make a lot of racket like a buzz bait would.
Yeah.
Clank, 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 even though we know buzz baits get eaten up. Frog's a little more quieter. You maybe even start with a soft plastic, just kind of bouncing and dragging it along. And then I work my way out, and as I work my way out, I'm trying other things. A paddle tail swim bait a little further out, then maybe a lipless crank or something, or even just a hard swim bait. I'm hearing a lot lately about using hard swim baits for bed fishing. I haven't tried it yet, but they're saying that it's blowing up, it's working. I guess
just parking it right on there.
Yeah, or making it like it's going to be near a good bluegill. Number one enemy.
For sure, man.
So you see your bluegill beds and your shad spawns going on. So pick up on that. Pay attention to the beginners are going to hear match the hatch. Pay attention to what is in the body of water you're fishing. Here's something this time of year, because I started seeing them a couple weeks ago. Snakes are coming out.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, get a 9-inch worm with a wobblehead hook.
Mm-hmm.
You can't imitate a snake better, and it's cheap, and it's you're not gonna get mad, if you lose it.
And it works.
It's just a plastic worm. You got a bag full of them.
Yep.
And so the habitat, the environment, the temperatures, all of that, and that beginners need to get into some apps, Fish Brain, Bass Forecast, those types of things, and it'll help tell you if it might be more productive for you to spend your time as a beginner, where you're really having to take time out of your normal time to go. And you'll know a little bit more about, what you're dealing with at that time.
That's a good one, because I did a write-up in our email about a weather app, because I find that we have it's not a huge piece of water, but it's Lake St. Clair. I mean, it's kind of a legendary smallmouth fishery.
Did you say that's not a huge piece of water?
It's not a huge I mean, compared to the Great Lakes, it's not a huge piece of water. It's a big
We
lake.
just have all the big pieces of water.
And it's also well, we don't have an ocean, and it's also not deep, right?
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's not deep either. I mean, the deepest it gets is 18, 20 some feet,
it's
like
really,
20,
really
22
not.
feet.
For how big it is, it doesn't even make sense.
Well, it's a runoff. It's an area in between where the Thames River empties out from Canada and goes into Erie. So it's transition water, and it's basically a giant flood, kind of like a giant flooded plain. But regardless, I did a write-up, and because we have a place on the Canadian side over there, and I find that with those really big pieces of water, the weather is a huge deal. And after I started noticing consistent things like low fronts moving in, fish it until you're getting drenched, because that's some of the best time to fish. And picking up on some of those things, I start obsessing over the weather, and now I pay for a weather service, because it's not a ton of money, but it makes such a big difference to have super detailed, reliable weather, and I plan my trips around things like that.
I think that's huge, especially when you're getting started, right? It's if you are hoping to enjoy your time on the water, and if you're trying to get into something new, you got to get some wins under your belt, you got to get some momentum, and it's really hard to do that. I've had, and I'm sure, Brian, you get this all the time on Instagram, but people probably message you, kids or just people getting into fishing, not necessarily kids, but people getting into fishing are asking for tips. They're like, oh, I have a pond, and I've been throwing everything at them, and it's not working, and you start to throw them some tips, but you want them to get those wins, right? And I think set them up for success. So I appreciate that you said just go to a comfortable area. I was picturing in my head somebody just putting on the war paint, just smear your face with mud, and then climb under a tree and get to that really sketchy spot and then cast underhanded into it, which I've definitely done, and sometimes it's worth it. But yeah, if you're just getting started, man, don't do that, because you're just gonna lose everything you got, and you're just gonna get so mad.
Yeah.
So, that's good points, man.
Yeah, right. It's I kind of relate it to recovery for me, because I've already told you that's a big thing in my life, and hurts, habits, and hangups applies for me to fishing also. I'm gonna lose fish, I'm gonna lose baits, but it's not the end of the world. I move on, I'm past that. There's nothing I can do about it now. Just go learn from it. It's always a learning experience. You hear athletes in professional sports say, that it wasn't losing, it was learning. They learned something that helped make them better. And so use that, every experience is a learning experience. And, not that we're going to go back, but to what I do at a fishery, to a body of water now, is I will pull up and, and I'm already looking. You hear this with golfers when they're coming up to the green to putt, they're surveying the slopes. They're looking at the way the grass grain grows, all of that. Is there a pond over to my right? Because I know that it's going, water runs off that way. If my putt's going to go to the right or left. And so, I'm doing that when I pull up to a place, and when I get out and I'm looking, I'm surveying the water, am I seeing fish breaking here and there, whatever's going on. And that's just another thing that I feel like now helps me that I didn't do before.
Yeah, good points, man.
All right. One last question that I already asked that never got answered. If all the bass in the world died.
he kind of answered this. He just said saltwater.
Oh, that's right.
Yes,
man.
I really wanted you to say
he's going to the coast.
I wanted you to say catfish really bad. How many cats do you accidentally catch?
Believe it or not, I think I've only caught like 2 cats accidentally.
Oh, man.
A couple of bowfins, some black crappie.
Those are
some bluegill.
Bluegill pound for pound. Best fighters out there.
Catfishing is huge down here, though. So that was a good question.
That's why I was hoping you were gonna say catfishing, because I just feel like you're in like a mecca for catfishing.
Yeah,
like a mecca, man.
Yeah. There's a whole festival 30 minutes away just for shad. It's called the Shad Festival.
I believe that. After
That's
some of the
awesome.
pictures I was seeing of you bringing those in, I'm like, are you kidding me? They're like a foot long. Like, what? That's awesome.
That's gnarly.
I love it. All right. Parting thoughts. Brian, what do you got for us? It can be plug-in your Instagram, which I definitely want you to do.
Start by plugging. Where can people find you, Brian?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it is Fisher of Men on Instagram, and that's FSHR. That's not spelled out Fisher. So FSHROFMEN, Fisher of Men. That is, I'm not going to say biblical based, but it's kind of based on Matthew 4:19 out of the Bible, which is Jesus telling the crowd to follow him, and he will make them fishers of men.
Awesome, man. And I was going to ask you this earlier, and I didn't ask you this, but you have a YouTube channel, but you don't use it. Why not? I'm curious.
I don't know. I think because I'm mostly off of my phone. Is the biggest reason. I feel like to be a successful videographer or YouTuber, you absolutely need to use a PC or a laptop, and I have one. I just have not dove into it yet. I don't know enough about it. I'm still studying it. Still, watching, talking to other YouTubers. And I basically just do Instagram and Facebook. Plus, guys, come on, I'm 46 years old.
So
getting after it though.
Yeah, I'm doing good to be fairly successful at what I'm trying to do. So it'll possibly come. Of course, TikTok is blowing up, which that's just kind of short skit stuff. Yeah. Maybe it can be used to direct people to, something else like YouTube. I don't know, but I'm looking into it.
Yeah, I want you to do it. I'm gonna push for you to do it. I'm gonna challenge you.
You guys can help me.
I can definitely do that, man. I mean, honestly, if you shoot your videos landscape on your phone, you could get away with that. And
I was about to say.
Yeah, you can get like a simple video editor on your phone, dude. We're gonna do it. Fisher of Men will be on YouTube and be crushing it very soon. Just wait for it. You heard it here first when he blows up. But yeah, any other thoughts, Brian? Anything else you want to plug or say before we hop off?
You know, the staff thing, I just want to jump back to it real quick.
Yeah.
You know, I told you that I spent my whole winter, I was still fishing, because North Carolina, you can do that here. I know you guys can't up there for the most part, unless you're on a big body of water.
Yeah.
But I spent my whole winter, you know, applying, and I was rejected a lot. You know, I mean, look at me. I mean, I had already faced the fact that I'm 46 years old. I've only been fishing for 5 years. I fish from the bank. Nobody's going to be picking me up, you know, to go pro or anything else. They're not going to be sponsoring me. My whole thing is, it's about helping people. I like to help people a lot. I care about people, you know, and helping them. And I thought, well, you know, staff is a great way to do that. I don't care about the benefits, you know, if there even are any.
Right.
I'm obviously not going to pay to do it like some companies ask me to do, you know, buy X amount of things within 3 weeks, you know, and we'll consider you field staff at that point. That wasn't happening. But so I was selective too. And even though I'd applied, I found out a lot. I learned a lot, and I was rejected a lot. But that didn't stop me. And, you know, I think I found places that are what I like to consider home, you know, for me. They're all good quality people. The companies are good quality people. I was talking about the staff people there at first, but, you know, the companies are good quality people. They care, they promote as well. They share your stuff. You know, that's what it's all about, is to help them grow. And in the same token, you know, it's kind of double-edged sword. It's going to help you grow. Because if they like your material, you're putting out good stuff, quality content, they're going to help you by promoting that. And so, you know, that's why I got on, you know, with X-Zone, with Monster Bass, with Bucket Mouth, with Bass Dynasty, with Titan Tungsten, with Vector Hooks, with Bank Roberts Fishing, Cast King. That's why I got on with those. And those people are all, you know, just, they kind of cover the full spectrum of everything. You know,
everything you need.
You got your terminal tackle, to your rods, to your gear, to your clothing, your monthly bait box. And so I think I feel like I did pretty good. I'm gonna pat myself on the back right now.
Oh, both sides, my man. Both sides.
Crushed it.
You know, I think no longer than I've been fishing, no more knowledge than I have. I think I'm doing, you know, fairly good. And it's not about me. You know, it is about helping anybody else that I can. And so, you know, anybody that's listening that wants to hit me up to ask me, you know, anything, just ask me. You know, I'm not asking you to DM me for free stuff. That's not what I'm doing.
Certainly not.
Caution. Use caution.
Yeah, but you know, what I do know, what I have learned, I will share with anybody.
Awesome, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate the time. Love the story, bro. Love it. So yeah, thanks for being on, brother. If you guys enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, 5-star review, drop us a comment, and definitely five, all 5 stars, count them up, and 100% go subscribe to Fisher of Men on Instagram and YouTube, because he's gonna start doing YouTube stuff, and it's gonna be awesome. All right, thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time.